Back here for the final time in the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Diving right into this final segment, the Chicago Bears and Justin Fields fallout. Ever since Justin Fields got to the Chicago Bears, it's been the typical situation for, the organization that was looking for a fresh change, a fresh start, trying to build something from the foundation up with a generational type of talent like Justin Fields was, or is, I shouldn't say was. But they jumped on the opportunity, trade up with the Giants to take the number 11 pick and give the Giants some compensation for that, and take Justin Fields ahead of teams like the Giants, the Eagles, and other teams in that 2021 draft. And they went all in on this guy. He was going to be the franchise. He had the talent. He certainly has the talent to be that. Everybody thought that he did. And he showed some flashes, but it never really developed into anything more serious. He got hurt a lot this past season and the seasons before. And now we're at a point where they have the number 1 pick again, and it's crazy to me how they're trying to do almost the exact same thing with virtually the same level of talent on that roster, and expecting something else differently to happen. If you look back to that draft, that 2021 draft, Trevor Lawrence went first overall, Zach Wilson went 2, Trey Lance 3rd, Mac Jones went 15, and Justin Fields went 11. Other than Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields has been clearly the best quarterback out of those other ones that were drafted in the first round. And in terms of Trevor Lawrence, comparing him to Justin Fields, they will always be tied, at least in my mind, in some aspect, because of not only them being drafted in the same draft, but they played against each other just months before the draft in the college football playoffs, where Fields' Ohio State played Trevor Lawrence's Clemson in that game. It was probably one of the best playoff games I've seen from two generational type of quarterbacks, both being drafted there in a few months, for them to face off like that with two of the best teams in college football. It was phenomenal to see. And Fields had probably one of the best performances in a playoff game where he outplayed Trevor Lawrence. I think he threw for over 400 yards. I'm almost sure of it. And he threw six touchdowns in that game. And a lot of people would want to forget or tend to forget that when Trevor Lawrence was drafted to the Jaguars, his head coach was Urban Meyer. And I don't think I have to explain to anybody how that situation went with Urban Meyer, Trevor Lawrence. In that first season, it wasn't great. It was far from that, actually. And it was similar to Justin Fields' situation with Matt Nagy in Chicago. And now you're looking at these two quarterbacks, like, they're not having the level of success that people expected them to. And the Jaguars actually did something about it. They went out and got Doug Peterson, an experienced coach, a good offensive mind, went to the Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. Now he's taken on this challenge of developing Trevor Lawrence, and under him, it's been nothing but great things for Trevor Lawrence and that development. The Jaguars invested a lot in helping him out, drafting his teammate in college, Travis Etienne, improving that O-line, getting him some weapons, Christian Kirk, Evan Engram, now Calvin Ridley, and a defense to support them in moments where their offense might not be great. Yeah, the defense is definitely young, and it's not a top unit, but they did something to support Trevor Lawrence in the moment where, or in those years where he needed it the most. People just didn't give up on him. There was that change from Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson, but that was virtually the only change that happened for the Jaguars. And Justin Fields, on the other end of the spectrum, hasn't really had that security, that support that I believe the Bears failed him in, I guess, is the term that I'm trying to use, for a lack of a better term. He hasn't really had a qualified head coach, at least not to the level of Doug Peterson that Trevor Lawrence had. in those years where they're developing and they need that structure to have a sound voice in their ear, guide them through this process of being in the NFL, being the guy on an NFL football team. Just look at Patrick Mahomes. He was very raw coming out of college, but he had Andy Reid, one of the best coaches in NFL history, and look where he ended up. Now, I'm not saying Justin Fields has that talent level of Patrick Mahomes. I don't think you can say anybody does, but it shows a lot. I think Patrick Mahomes could be in a lot different situation if he didn't have Andy Reid and didn't have that organization to support him and have all those weapons that he had available to him that Justin Fields really didn't. On the topic that I mentioned of Matt Nagy, funny enough, he had success with Kansas City, but he wasn't suited to be a head coach or run an offense, a whole team, in my opinion. For Fields at the time, his record after his time spent in Chicago was 22-27 as a head coach, and I actually wasn't aware of this, that no offensive coordinator has lasted more than 2 seasons as the offensive coordinator of the Bills, except for two times in their whole history. Most recently, in 2009, was the last time an offensive coordinator lasted more than 2 years as the offensive coordinator in Chicago. And not only to add to that, they finally made the decision to get rid of Matt Nagy, get some new leadership in there, some new guidance for Justin Fields, but they went out and got Matt Eberflus, and it's again a case of not, I guess, recruiting well, not doing your homework well enough to find a guy that's more offensively based than Eberflus was, because he was a defensive coach. He had only been a defensive coordinator and a linebacker coach before his time as the Bears head coach. He's now currently 10-24 as a head coach, and he had never had any head coaching experience before this time at Chicago. And that's another topic that I won't get into now, but a lot of times these head coaches get their first opportunities with these organizations that might not be the best, might not be ready for success right now, and not only do they not have success, but they could potentially hinder the growth and development of a young quarterback that needs wiser, better guidance in their journey to being one of the top guys. That I get it. Someone has to give Matt Eberflus their first chance, and it had to be the Chicago Bears, and I just don't think it panned out again because it doesn't line up with what kind of coach I believe that Justin Fields needs, a more offensive-minded guy to really use his talents to the best of his abilities. That's why you see Justin Fields now being rumored to be traded to the Falcons. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the two biggest ones that I've seen, because they have the offensive power and the offensive scheme really fit to hone in on the skills of Justin Fields and use it to the best of their abilities. With Justin Fields, he could increase that run game in Atlanta by at least triple of the production that they have now with Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and if you add Justin Fields' running ability to that, no wonder why a lot of people, especially in Atlanta, are almost salivating at the chance of getting Justin Fields there, back in his home state, or back in Atlanta. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well, Justin Fields, fine, you want to say that he's a running quarterback. His arm's not that great, but I don't think it's worse than what Ryan Tannehill had in his years with Arthur Smith there. And now he's an offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if you're telling me that Arthur Smith had playoff success with Ryan Tannehill, that he can't do the same with Justin Fields, who, again, I think in my opinion that I don't think I could name more than 6 guys more talented than Justin Fields currently in the NFL. Just off the top of my head, it's Patrick Mahomes, if you want to throw Herbert, Burrow, Brock Purdy, you want to throw him in there, Jared Goff, Lamar Jackson. that might be it. Honestly, Josh Allen, that's 7. But then other than that, I don't think he's less talented than Tua or Dak Prescott, that are not only getting paid a lot, but the difference is that they're on great teams. They have great support around them. Josh Allen has Diggs, Mahomes has Kelsey, Herbert had Keenan Allen and Mike Williams for a time. Joe Burrow had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon. Jared Goff now, once he got some support, a lot more support in Detroit, as they built up the roster. Amon-Ra was brought there. He kind of came up and helped Goff. They signed David Montgomery, drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. Sam Laporta now also an option for Jared Goff, and now he's one of the top quarterbacks in the NFC. And again, it all just goes to the point where, yes, I'm not trying to downplay what Caleb Williams can be, what kind of talent he is. I'm not saying any of that, but for some people to think that it's all potentially on Justin Fields, that it had to do with him, this is why this didn't work, and almost think that the Bears have no choice but to draft Caleb Williams because they don't have a capable quarterback. I think that's where the judgment gets misguided and misjudged by a lot of people in the NFL, because in my opinion, I think if they keep Fields, it might work out better for them. They could trade out of the one spot. It's probably not likely because, it's the one spot. For a team to trade out of the one spot and have Caleb Williams coming in, I think it would be crazy. But it does feel unfortunate for Justin Fields that the Bears have the one spot and now he's kind of given really little to no shot of staying, kind of proving himself, and having the Bears bank on him to really invest in him going forward. But that's kind of where I stand on the situation. Just coming on here to reiterate how, it could be Justin Fields' fault. I'm not saying he's been perfect, that he's been done wrong by any sense, but to think that it's all been on him, I think that's where we kind of split ways in that way of thinking. But again, let me know what you guys think. I always try to make these last topics a more opinion-based, sort of discussion-based topic for you guys to engage with. And let me know what you guys think on anything I said or just the topic in general. But that seems to be all the time I have for you guys today. I want to thank all of you again for tuning in to this episode of the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your engagement means a lot to not only me, but to us. So please remember to subscribe, like, and comment on the show, as well as following us on other social media networks like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok for more of this content. And if you want to see more episodes, you can catch the whole episode on the Sports Network channel and the Podcast Network channel. There's individual segments, there's YouTube shorts for you guys to engage with and see any more discussions, storylines around the NFL. But for now, I've been your host, Manny Mardiege. Wishing you guys a good rest of your evening or good rest of your day, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to